Alright, so, I needed a place to sit down and write. Because I'm homeless, it's really difficult to find a place to do that. You have to spend money to use the internet somewhere. When you only have $10 at a time, $15 at a time that you can spend, you don't get to rent a place. Yesterday I spent $30 to get a place where I could write. There's some people that, well, you can't snap at people or they're not going to help you. Then again, if you don't do what they want, they're not going to help you. I spent $30 yesterday for a place where I could sit down and write and charge my phone and charge my computer. Instead, it ended up being them using my computer, not my computer, my phone for many hours on end. Over 4 hours they spent talking or texting or typing on my phone in just one stint out of the many times that they needed to use it. But they have a roof and they have power access, so I felt that I could sit down and write. But I didn't get to sleep because people who are on substances, which is everyone in the United States, whether you're on alcohol or methamphetamines or heroin or whatever your drug of choice happens to be, it might be antidepressants. It's the same thing. You're selfish, and it's all about you. I didn't just spend all of that, I also spent $40 in gas. I also spent $50 worth of food stamps. Food stamps that I got in Washington State. I didn't want food stamps. I didn't want to change everything over from Nebraska. But see, just like the people here, I have to tickle their fancy in order to not get anything but lip service. Non-stop lip service. Where these selfish people are going to talk over me no matter what I say, it's their turn to speak. But I also see where this comes from. See this group of alcoholics here. They're just like meth heads in Boulder or meth heads in Chapel or, well, just about any addict to anything, anywhere. In order to be an addict, you have to be a selfish person. Only selfish people are capable of being addicts. And a lot of these people, it's not that they want to be selfish, it's that nobody listens. The alcoholics, for example, you have people in your life who want you to quit drinking. Because you're drinking, they don't want to hear you talk nonstop. They want you to do certain things, like sober up. So you go hang out with other people who are drunk, who are dealing with the same thing. So you've got a group of 6 drunk people who are selfish and only hear their own internal monologue. All of them speaking over each other, all of them getting angry because it's their turn to speak. But you don't have to be on medications or drugs to be like that. When I was in Washington State, my dad's exactly the same way. It's all about him. He is absolutely right. If I try to speak, he makes sure that he lets me know before trying to listen to what I have to say. He just tells me outright, I'm never going to understand you. That's right, Dad, you're never going to try. Just like the alcoholics here. They're never going to try. I listen better than most. So I spent over 14 hours today listening to people. How is that different than anywhere else that I've been? It's not. Everywhere that I go, everyone else's lives are more important. But they also have resources that I don't. They have more resources than I have. They have more people working together to bring in those resources. And what I have to say at no point in time means anything to any of them. They all want to talk about themselves. I'm not allowed to speak up, or I end up with nothing. But if I spend those resources, I still end up with nothing. And then there are people who have resources that they can send me, and they really don't have the ability to send me those resources, but they do anyway. They don't have the time to listen. They have their own families, they have their own internal monologue, and I hear all of them. I hear Erin Cockerham and her son's broken jaw. I hear about Mandy and her struggles. I hear about John and his struggles, and Mary and her struggles. I hear about my dad and his trivial struggles. It's more difficult and takes more resources to start than it does to keep what you have. If you already have a vehicle and a job and a house, it's easier to keep them than it is to start with nothing and try to gain these things. Now, where it would have taken me $600 to rent a room, I never had that $600 to rent a room because all of my resources were being eaten by the expectations of others, unrealistic expectations of others, unrealistic financial expectations of others, unrealistic time expectations of others, unrealistic expectations. While I'm jumping through these people's hoops for help that is not help, help that wastes my time, help that wastes my resources, wastes my money, wastes my gas. It cost me over $100 yesterday. Over $100 for me to listen to people for 14 hours and have them use my resources. Well, I'm just praying there is one person who will shut the fuck up and let me work. Stop having such unrealistic demands of someone who has nothing. Meanwhile, these people indulge in their own whims, their own self-indulgent whims. My dad could try to be family and try to listen, but with his time, it's important for me to listen. It's not important for him. That's how it is in a selfish person's mind. All addicts are selfish. All of them. Every one of them. Some people are addicted to alcohol. Some are addicted to drugs. Some are addicted to power. Some of them are addicted to taking things out on someone they can get away with. So these people here, the one that I just listened to for 4 hours straight, talking about himself, after feeding him, after giving him rides so he doesn't have to walk through the cold. He's not going to invest his time or resources into me. He's going to spend his time and resources on alcohol tomorrow. That's what he's going to do. And he's going to go find some alcoholics to hang out with who don't treat him like crap for drinking. But they're not going to hear a thing he has to say. Just as he's not going to hear anything that they have to say because they're all drinking. The other alcoholics, they want someone to listen to them. He wants someone to listen to him. and they're not going to listen to each other. Their own internal monologues are more important than another human being. Have they been kind to me? Yes. They haven't snapped at me. They haven't threatened me. They haven't thrown anything at me. They haven't screamed at me. They've screamed at each other. They scream at selfishness. The same thing that I scream at. But each one of them doesn't realize that they're the ones being selfish. They're not realizing that while they're having the extra money to go spend on booze, that's the reason they don't have a telephone. And that's the reason they end up using mine. Meanwhile, none of the stuff that I need to do, I can't do it at McDonald's. I can't make these telephone calls from McDonald's and talk about murder, talk about rape, talk about child molestation, or I get kicked out of McDonald's, or Starbucks, or wherever I happen to be. I have to hope that there's somebody out there who is not selfish in nature who can take me in. What the police did to me, they did because they're selfish. What these people have done here, they did because they're selfish. What my dad did, he did because he's selfish. What my mother did, she did because she's selfish. What my older brother did, he did because he's selfish. The resources that I have literally wasted being here, well, they would have been better served elsewhere, but I was not elsewhere. Meanwhile, people with no time to listen, they want to waste resources throwing them at me. That money all goes to waste because I have no safe place where I can be heard. I spend time texting people who say that they'll help me, hoping that they'll call, begging them to call, begging them to stop texting me. Please call me. You're wasting my time. You are wasting my life in a selfish way. Before my dad's, I was at Shannon's. Just like any other alcoholic. She gets into her own internal monologue, and that is what is important. She can't stay focused on anything but her own internal monologue. Just like my dad. Just like the people here. That's a selfish nature. I need help. Not empty words, not lip service. But I listen, and most of these people, they've never had anyone who listens to them. Because sober people don't want to listen to them because they're drunk. And drunk people don't want to listen to them because it's their turn to speak. But then again, the sober people, they're not listening either, because it, again, is their turn to speak. It's not difficult to listen to another human being, but selfish people do not listen. People with families don't take the time. They can't. They have families. I don't fit in because I don't have your selfish nature. I don't have that. I try to be a selfish person and I am not capable. I make these videos because, much like these alcoholics, nobody listens to me. Does that mean that none of you are listening to what I have to say? I don't know. It doesn't matter because you're not here in person where it does matter. people get to take their selfishness out on me and treat me like I wanted it, needed, or deserved it. The lady whose house I'm at, she's going to be sober in the morning, somewhat sober. She's going to have a hangover. She's probably going to show up here wanting me to spend resources I no longer have on things that she wants. Beer or food or whatever else. And I spend time helping them to fix the things that are wrong with their place. But they can't stay sober long enough to help. So I do it. Then they have unrealistic expectations like I should want the things that they're willing to give. Except I didn't spend over $100 yesterday to be in a warm place. I have the gear that I don't have to listen to this. I don't. But I need someone to listen, and it's not these people. It's the resources that they offered but did not follow through. Like with my father, had resources he offered but did not follow through. With Shannon, she had resources that she offered but did not follow through. Does that mean they did nothing? No. While I was at Shannon's, I ate her food and slept under her roof. I just couldn't get her to listen. Her own internal monologue got in the way, her own selfishness. With my dad, it's the same thing. His own internal monologue, his own need for power, his need for control, and his bad assumptions. Out of everyone with bad assumptions, Shannon is actually the worst. Because if you tell her that there's an issue, no, Shannon, I can't go to the library, there's a reason. And I explain that reason. But while I'm explaining that reason, she's busy talking over me, saying the same thing over and over and over again. Whether it takes you 10 seconds to say, what about the library? Or you saying, what about the library 10 different ways in 10 seconds. It's the same thing. Except you're wanting to say it 10 different ways in 10 seconds. With Shannon, when I spoke with her the third time that I spoke with her on the phone, we'd already spent almost 3 hours on the phone with me listening to her telling me about all of her problems, with her giving the same suggestion over and over and over again, and it's 90% me listening to what she has to say, because every time I start speaking, she interrupts me mid-sentence, just like the alcoholics here, just like my dad who has his quest for power. My dad's love is money. He's self-indulgent. He cares about things like an H2 that's a Hummer. However, my grandpa Brian, he's a very selfish person as well. He is dead now. He's also a child molester and a rapist, so good riddance. Autistic people see the world for what it is, while you guys know what to be afraid of. So do I. But unlike you, I don't make excuses. I have reasons. Do you know the difference between a reason and an excuse? If you're driving to work and your tire blows up, then you have a reason for being late to work. Your tire blew up. Well, you should have thought about that ahead of time and started driving an hour earlier every day. Ah, yes, eating up more time. I could do that, and actually I did. Most jobs I had, I was at least 15 minutes early, if not a full hour. That's in case something happened. At the same time, my dad gave me a Jeep. It wasn't a Jeep that I needed. That Jeep would be useful if the other things that I needed, the help that I truly needed, was something that my father had cared about. It was these people who offered to help. They offered to help how I needed, but they didn't follow through, just like the people here. See, it doesn't matter that there's a roof over my head right now. I haven't slept. I need to sleep, but I can't because I need those resources that I wasted. I only wasted those resources in the hopes that I could be left alone long enough to write. I spent more resources than I would have at McDonald's. Now the problem with McDonald's, see, I got a food stamp card, right? But you can't use that at McDonald's, and I need access to the internet. I need access to the power plug-in. I need access for longer than 30 minutes, and you know what? Even if I buy something every 30 minutes, I still get kicked out at the end of the 30 minutes because I don't fit a particular idea of beautiful, even in this podunk nasty-ass town. And it is a nasty town. It's nasty in the same way as Chapel, Nebraska is, but it's larger, so there's more nasty, more excuses, more opportunities for sin and excuses for sin. We don't live in a very decent society. We live in a society where people need to work together or they get nothing. Except that people are working together to make it worse and not better. Not caring that that person who isn't getting as much as you doesn't have that to waste. The year before Natalie died, Pierre didn't care that when he didn't make it to his appointment to meet me at Starbucks at 9 a.m. the day after we spoke, it didn't occur to him that in order to meet him, I had to risk being assaulted by meth heads who were sent after me over a rumor by a mutual friend, Matty Boa. It didn't occur to Pierre that I had spent my money to go there to see him. It didn't occur to him that I went there because the help that he had promised. He said, I promise. And he did not follow through. But it's fine because he had other things going on. He has problems of his own. Did he bother to let me know that he canceled that appointment? No, he did not. He got a hold of me 3 days later. He got a hold of me 3 days later to treat me like shit for texting him, where are you? Dude, you said you would be here. Where are you? A lot of these people that said that they would, they can see my messages. Messenger shows you when somebody has read it, when somebody has seen it, when it's been delivered to their telephone, when you've sent it. There's indicators. When somebody says, I'll see you at 9 a.m., and they see it when you sent them something at 9:30 saying, "Hey, I'm here. Where are you? Are you running late?" They see it at 11 or 12 or 1 or 2, but they don't reply. They ignore you because they're selfish, because their own personal problems are not worth working together with someone else for. They want my help. I help them how they need, how they ask. But they don't keep their end of the bargain. None of them do. Teresa, she wanted to do the same thing because she's an alcoholic. Natalie and her sister both being on heroin. Danica believing whatever she wants to believe. These officers with their love of control and power. Look, I got a terrible villain off the streets, but I've never been. With Jamie, her selfishness. I understand she wants to keep her son. She doesn't want people to know that she still can't get off of the methamphetamines. She doesn't want the world to know that she's the one who let the predator go. When that predator came to her house, she blamed me for that predator, as if I had given that predator her address. It's all selfishness. There are a lot of givers in this world, too. But self-preservation comes first to them. Preservation of themselves, preservation of their families. My dad doesn't listen. He has his own internal monologue, just like every other alcoholic I've known. But also, I knew at a very young age that my dad's love was money. Money and control. There's a lot of people that don't have that control. They don't have subservient people in their lives, like my dad's wife, who is Miss Susie Homemaker, who has an income that she combines with my father's to ease the tension of the costs of living, of having a roof, of having a vehicle, of having insurance. People say, Sean, you just need to get a job. Well, before I broke the law, there was no time. I had no time because I was trying to follow the law. I was trying to do what it is that the law required of me, while the law itself was being broken by those very same people telling me that I had to follow these laws. These people who broke these laws and want to treat me like I'm the criminal. Treat me like I'm the bad guy. Like I'm the one who has done something wrong. Like I am the one who is not making an effort after I spent all of these resources making an effort to get what I needed. Why am I making a video right now instead of typing? Because I have shutdowns. I need someone to listen. Not just to listen, but to actually listen. To set aside their own selfish internal monologue and hear what it is that I'm actually saying, without interrupting me, without getting condescending, without saying the same thing over and over and over to me, and then I'm not allowed to say the same thing over and over and over to them. When most of the time what I'm saying over and over and over is, please stop interrupting me and listen to what I have to say. So I get frustrated. People say you can't scream. Why not? In all of these places that I've been, I've listened to screaming. Today I listened to alcoholics scream at each other. And my dad's didn't scream at anybody else, he only screamed at me. He didn't prevent anybody else from leaving, he only prevented me. That's because those people in his lives, my dad being someone who loves control, he will lie outright to try to make himself feel as if he's right, or to try to convince you that he does things that he does not, or to try to convince you that he understands the situation better than you do. Meanwhile, he's never been in that situation. We deal with a lot of that in the United States, like Donald Trump and his personal vendetta against brown-skinned individuals to shut down the entire country, leading to financial turmoil, which is one of the number one things people kill themselves over. Also, it's one of the number one reasons for people having relationships that fall apart, and for losing everything that they've worked for their whole lives. You work 30 years, but if you miss 3 payments of that 30-year mortgage, you're out on the street. You spent 30 years trying to earn that house. You may only be a couple of months away from paying it off. They'll still throw you out in the street. My castle idea was to get a safe place. A place where people like me who don't have the resources, where we're trying to live $5 at a time, $10 at a time, we end up spending all of our resources on selfish people who will never keep their word. But I need someone in my corner to keep their word. They can't because they have families. Most of the people that I've helped out in my adult life are single mothers and their children. They say, I can't do it, I have children. I can't do it by myself, I have children. And you help them out so they don't lose their stuff. And a month later, they've completely forgotten about that. And they're talking about how they did it all themselves. And what a great mother they are for having done it all themselves. And then there's these people who, very heavily in Nebraska, they're selfish people. They spend $30 to buy alcohol every night. $30 worth of beer. Get just as drunk off of a $3 bottle of Barton's cheap vodka. But they're self-indulgent. Their addictions are important, and it must be their specific addiction. People who smoke cigarettes, that's an addiction. A lot of people, they'll only smoke their brand. It must be a Marlboro Red. It must be a Camel Wide. It must be a Pall Mall 100. It must be a Newport. Even if it's more expensive, we have to have our American spirits. Each one of these people indulging in this is doing so over pains from the past. They try to drown it out with their substance of choice, from antidepressants to booze to meth to control and power. We must have control over something, mustn't we? It's a selfish nature. I know good people who are givers. Most of them have experienced real turmoil. My castle idea was so that people like us we could get away from the world, the givers as well as the takers. A lot of the givers in my life, they abandoned me as well because they're afraid. They're afraid that those people who have that love of power or have that love of alcohol, these people with these addictions, if they stand up and do the right thing, these people who are addicted to these things will tear them apart the same as they have done to me. So these people who offered to help and promised, in many cases, to help how I needed. When they needed someone to listen to them, I did. I did out of necessity, hoping that someone would listen, I suppose. At Candace's, there was the help that I needed, and the help that her own internal monologue said that I needed. Her own ideas about the situation that she didn't bother to find out about, didn't bother to listen to. When it came to fearing the consequences of what selfish people would do to her, well, she didn't go after them, did she? She didn't go after the selfish. She went after me, costing me resources. Lana's selfishness cost me many resources. Dan Favorite spent resources to help me, but his own internal monologue did more harm than good. All of the people that I exposed in public, I exposed for a reason. Between talking to me one-on-one and treating me like shit in public, they chose to treat me like shit in public, to make assumptions based on their own internal monologue. To this day, not one person has actually listened to what I had to say. Dan said that he listened to me for 45 minutes once. That's kinda true. He kept on interrupting me mid-sentence, same as everyone else. But also his tone let me know that he wasn't listening. When he was speaking, he was letting me know that he was bored of hearing me speak. His tone tells me this. This is something that I pick up on. But also, Dan has a wife. Dan has his health. Dan has a job. Dan has a roof. Dan has a vehicle. And he's not starting off solo, by himself, with nothing to try to get these things, while people are hunting him, while his own friends are stabbing him in the back non-stop, throwing him away, having him waste his resources, and being punished for wasting those resources by the very same people who promised to help. The reason I don't want to live in this world is because no matter how hard I try, people don't care. They're selfish. I'm not capable of that type of selfishness. The lies that Alicia and Natalie and Maddie told prevented me from being able to help out my loved ones, prevented me from being able to help out myself. But it's fine because they had all the help in the world, help that I never had. My dad holds a lot of animosity because he could not control me. There's a reason he could not control me. Because I am not subservient. I am not an animal. I genuinely care. I don't pretend to only when people do what I want them to. Many of these people who tore me down in the worst of fashions, including Natalie. When she needed me, I was there. When she disappeared, I still loved her. When she was dead, I still loved her. And now, with everything that has gone on, as angry as I am at that dead woman, I still love her. I exist for you to punish. That is all.